This is a player. A player has a costume, but if you look closely, you'll see this player is also a wrapper. This is a player. A player has a costume, but if you look closely, you'll see this player is also a wrapper. We can see that by hitting the inspect on the halo, hit inspect player. There's our player. That has an instance variable which has a costume, which is the StackMorph. This StackMorph. To send a message to the StackMorph, we have to send it to the player first because it's a wrapper. Now we don't see a tile that we want for what we want to build. We're going to have a transcript, we're going to have a button. When you press the button, this text will go into that transcript. But there's no tile for that, so what are we going to do? Well, we're going to build one. StackMorph class side scripting additions to viewer categories. We're going to add an array of our own. It says command print to viewer : a string for the balloon help, and then the word player. Now because our selector has a colon, we have to put player at the end of our array. And if we didn't have that colon, we would need player. If we wanted a variable, we'd have to do something else. So there's a little bit of a protocol here. Let's copy print to transcript and put it on the instance side. Now this is the selector which is actually going to do whatever we want our tile to do. What we want it to do is transcript show an object. Now because the player is a wrapper, we have to go to the player and register the same selector so that the player receives the selector and then passes it onto the StackMorph. It's just costume print to transcript, passing it along. So now we can see we've got a tile, the tile we want. We pull it out. Now we've got our text morph, and we can click on the halos to get a tile from that and drag it right there. So we've got a complete script now. Well, almost complete. Because see, this only gives the name of the player. We want something that's inside that player. So we have to be more specific about what's going on the instance side. We add costume and text, and that should be enough. Right, so now we hit the script, we get the text. It's exactly what we want to do. Let's make a button for it. We click on that menu there, button for the script. And I spend about the next 40 seconds just showing how to change the way that button looks. In making this movie, my sole objective was to make the tiles. But nobody actually does that. You don't set out to make tiles. Someone who was developing in Morphic would make whatever they wanted, and then after the fact would say, oh, you know what? Let's do something so that this has tiles too. What I'm saying is I went from the class side to the instance side to the player. Nobody would actually do that unless you were making a movie like this. You would develop what you wanted in Morphic, you'd have a bunch of selectors on the instance side, and then you say, okay, let's register these as tiles, and then add something to the class side and the player. So I was a little backwards in this movie, but it happens. So we don't need this anymore because our button does exactly what we want. We can add a little something to make it look a little better, a semicolon and a carriage return, just so it looks a little more even. And that's pretty much how you make a Etoys tile, scripting tile, for your projects.